Hello. Today we're going to talk about single-armed clubs, and we're going to talk about what order to learn the various movements. Clubs are unique from anything else I've ever worked with. You really have to crawl before you walk, before you can run. And there is nothing else out there that will find the imbalances in your body, um, left hand to right hand, and just weak muscle groups to strong muscle groups, coordination to uncoordination. Clubs are incredibly suited for that purpose, which also means that we can benefit from them significantly as we bring our body into balance. My name is Chris Butterworth. This is the Healthy Butter Fitness channel. This is the place where we talk about being in our 50s and 60s and trying to fight off the effects of father time every day, every step of the way, trying to stay as young and as full of movement and flexibility as we can. I am 56 years old and I feel great. When I was 50, I had chronic lower back pain, I had rotator cuff issues, I had elbow issues. Functional fitness fixed me. Started with kettlebells, then I added club, then I added Mace, and I am a completely different person now from what I was a few years ago. My goal with this channel is to share with you. I want everybody out there to be able to share the experience that I've had. So to that end, let's talk about clubs. Maybe you've started out with clubs, maybe you've done clubs for a little bit, but you're not exactly sure how to put a program together and you want to talk about the exercises that you need to do. Like I said, you crawl before you walk, before you can run. You have to get good enough at clubs before clubs can be a workout. When you first start, it's more of a practice. It's more of something that you do, and your body has to get used to it. Really, you're going to be so awkward and so out of balance that you can't get a full heavy breathing, heart pumping, sweaty workout. You're just not good enough at it yet. So it really is a process. For me, my left hand was so much weaker than my right hand. I mean, we all know I'm right hand dominant. I expect my right hand to be better, but the level of difference between them was shocking. And so I picked up a club, what I thought I could work with, and then I had to reduce the weight and reduce the weight and reduce the weight. And I finally got to a weight that my left hand could handle. And so my first workouts were with this really light weight. I was down at 7.5 pounds. And my right hand, I would do a set with my left hand, and then I would do a set with my right hand. And my right hand was just bored. This was just boring, but my left hand had to get up to speed. And eventually I was able to work my way up, 7.5. I think I did a couple at 8 3/4, and then I moved to 10, and then I went to 12.5. Eventually I got to the point where it was legitimate work with both hands. Even to this day, when I do volume shield cast work, my left hand is a little less coordinated going around my head than my right hand. It's just after 50 something years of throwing with your right hand's better at it, and it takes a long time to catch up. The other thing that happens with clubs that I found is that you're limited by your body's weakness. So the first thing that happened to me was my hands would just get super tired. I would do a few minutes of club work and my hands would almost start cramping, like fatigued, out of gas. Hands can't do anymore. They have to take a rest. So you're thinking about, I want to do this massive workout. I want to swing clubs around warrior style. Let's go back to ancient man and I'm going to do this awesome club workout. And your hands are saying, done, can't do it, stop. That's all for today. Yeah, you have to keep mixing in breaks because your hands get so tired. As your hands get a little bit stronger, then your forearms become the weakness, and you just get tired. Everything below your elbow is really a weakness to being able to do clubs well. Now, again, the flip side of that, just like with balance, clubs show you, they make visible how out of balance you are, and that allows you to work on it, and you really get yourself into balance, which is great for eliminating pain. Clubs are amazing for grip strength, except that until you have grip strength, you can't do the club workout that you want to do. So all of this to say, you have to start out simple. When you talk about what exercises to work from, you can't go to this long, complex kind of workout. Um, you can't do a medley. You can't do stacking workouts on top of other workouts. It's really even hard to do mills because your hands get so tired. So um, we start out simple. We start out small. When you think about the number of reps, if you were to do, let's say, inside circles, we start out with inside circles. And let's say you do 5 sets of 5, and that's your workout. That's all your hands can handle. And then the next time you do 6 sets of 5, 7 sets of 5, 8 sets of 5. You go all the way up to the point where you're doing 20 sets of 5, which is 100 sets with each hand, 20 with the left, 20 with the right. And take a step back. The way that works is when you're doing, let's say, 5 sets of 5, you do 5 with the left hand, and then you trade hands and do 5 with the right hand, and your left hand gets a little bit of rest, and then you do 5 with the left hand again. So your body never puts the club down. You're continuing to work your core, your rotation. It's a constant workout, but the side changes. So your right hand gets a little bit of rest while your left hand's going, and your left hand gets to rest. You get to shake it out while your right hand's going. Eventually, you get up to 20 sets of 5, which is 100 reps on each side. Now, if you take a step back and if you actually do the math, 5 times 5 plus 6 times 5 plus 7 times 5, all the way up to 20 times 5, you have now done 1,000 reps. Say we're doing something simple like inside circle. You've done 1,000 reps with each hand of inside circle. And you know what that makes you? You are still a beginner. You're still only doing sets of 5. And you got to walk your way up to sets of 6, sets of 7, sets of 8, sets of 9. It doesn't mean that you can't add other workouts into it, but generally speaking, you want to get to 10 sets of 10, 11 sets of 10. You want to be over 100 multiple times. You're probably going to follow it up with a light day, heavy day. So you're spending a lot of time on these circles. I'm going to take a step back. Let me grab a club, and I'm going to walk through some of these exercises and talk about kind of how they come together. I'm going to change the view on this camera. I don't normally do this, but let's zoom out a little bit so we can see this. I'm going to grab a 15-pound club right here. And if we talk about progress, the first thing you got to be able to do, this is what I talked about in balance, is control the club. If the club's too heavy and you're all over the place and you can't hold it, that's a problem. You want to be able to hold the club. You want to have absolute control over it with both hands, right? You can't be chasing the club around. You can't have elbow flare. You certainly don't want to knock yourself in the teeth with the club. So being in control of the club is super important, the single most important thing. Use a weight that you can control. The basic exercise is inside circle. You're moving to the inside of your body. You're doing a circle around and you're catching it right here. Simple. You're going to add to that outside circles, which is the same movement, but in the other direction. You're moving outside your body and catching it over here. Notice that both of those are below the waist exercises. We're doing a bottom circle. Another below the waist exercise is a pendulum. Let me take a step back so you can see the whole thing. You're going to move inside. You're going to do the same thing, but instead of circling around and coming up, you're going to swing it down like a pendulum and come back out the other side. Boom, and you come back to where you came from. And you can do that the other way as well. Outside pendulum comes right back to where you started. So those are the two basic below the waist movements. I would do tons of circles, inside circles and outside circles. Then I would add some pendulums so that you get a little bit of variance. And pendulums are a little bit harder because your momentum doesn't carry the weight up. You actually have to use your core to pull it back up to you. So pendulums are a little bit harder than circles. Another one where you start out below the waist, but you go above the waist is a swipe. It's kind of like a pendulum to the back, but then you follow it up over your head. So this is kind of the first exercise that's going above your head, and it's just a straight pullover. Same thing you've done at the gym 1,000 times, but you've never done it with a lever. So it's a little different than what you've done before. Shield cast. We've talked about shield casts on prior videos. the two-handed shield cast is kind of the same as a halo from a kettlebell. Your top hand goes past the opposite ear. You're going to go all the way down, down to the bottom, kind of where your t-shirt is, and then you come out the other side. But it's not. It's more of a circle movement. It's a pendulum behind your head movement, and it comes right back out. You're not muscling it or anything. You're just kind of flowing with it. Gravity's doing the work. Well, you want to be able to do that same thing with one hand. So you're going to go around shield cast. And then the other one that's above our head is a rotating pullover. So you're kind of starting from one side and moving around. It's kind of like a throwing motion. You're going behind your head, or this for me is a tennis serve. You're going behind your head and you're coming out the other side. But you got to be able to do that both directions. And any of these things that we do, you got to be able to do with both hands. You got to be able to do your left hand just as well as your right hand. So those are 6 basic movements. And in ease of ability, let me change the focus here again. We'll go back to just talking to each other. Circles are the easiest, probably the most important, because everything comes after that. I did not add mills. When we say the 6 mills, I messed up our video here. And as you guys know, this is a one-take video. I don't edit, so you're gonna roll with me on this. But mills is a combination of a circle with that rotating pullover. So if you do a circle pullover, you now have a mill. So you base it. This is kind of the pinnacle of clubs. That's the primary club movement. But you can't do that on day one. You have to build up to it. So if you were counting before and got to 5, and I said that there were 6, that's why we missed mills. So what is the exact order to do these in? And the answer here is you want to go from simple to complicated and from easy to hard. So you're going to start with circles. You probably add some pendulums. Swipe is a similar movement to a pendulum, but it's front and back instead of side to side, but it goes over your shoulder for the first time. As you get comfortable with that movement, shield cast is kind of like that. Pullovers are kind of like that. And then eventually you can combine them into mills. And anything you do one direction, you do the other direction. So reverse mills is an outside circle with a outside pullover that way. Now, your path does not have to be exactly the same as my path was or as each other's path out there. Yes, you want to do thousands of reps. Yes, you want to be comfortable with it. But some people might add a heavy and a light day sooner than others. Some people might run, circles on one day, pendulums on the next day, swipe on the next day, and you can kind of do multiple things like that. And when I was starting out, I was a little bit stuck on that. Like, what is the program? How do I do this? And there wasn't really anything. There wasn't an absolute way to do it. And that bothered me a little bit. So I kind of wrote my own and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And in the back of my mind, I was like, I hope that's okay. Like, what if you get it wrong? Well, you're not going to get it wrong. If you're doing these movements and you keep the weight in control and you keep the weight light enough so that you're not going to injure yourself. And being in control was that measurement. As long as you're in control, you're not going to injure yourself. Allowing your left hand and your right hand to catch up with each other and make sure that you're in balance. Those are the things that are going to make sure that you're not injured and that you're catching up. Your body's moving in the right direction. Then I think of this in terms of, me, I always go back to tennis. Nadal, Novak, and Federer all played in the same era. Maybe the 3 greatest tennis players in the history of the game, if not certainly 3 of the top 5 or top 6 of all time, the GOATs, the greatest of all time. And they played in the same era. And the 3 of them had completely different styles. So if you were starting in tennis and you were following that path, who do you follow? Do you follow Nadal? Do you follow Djokovic? Do you follow Federer? There's not a right or wrong answer. It's what do you gravitate toward? What makes you happy? The more fun you're having playing tennis, the more tennis you're going to play, the more hours you spend on the court, the better you get. Like all of those kind of things come together, right? And so it's the same thing with club. If For me, I really wanted to get good at it, and my left hand was so much weaker than my right hand. I spent a year and a half on these specific movements. I was doing circles. I would do circles and shield cast one day. I was doing pendulums and pullovers the next day. And then eventually I was doing swipes and mills, and it was just over and over and over again. Sets of 5, sets of 6, and I would run it up 6 sets of 6, 7 sets of 6, 8 sets of 6, all the way up to 10. Then I would move to 2 sets of 7. And it was just over and over and over again for a full year and a half. And then eventually I kind of got bored with it. And I said, I'm just doing the same program over and over and over again. It's a half hour of work. I get dizzy doing, hundreds of circles in a row. Eventually I said, I got to do something different. And I started combining things together. And I said, what if I do 5 of these? And then I do 5 of these other things. And I started stacking some things together and making my own workouts. But I don't think I was good enough at the beginning to do that. I didn't know what to combine. I didn't know, how much of a workout it could be. And so I think, again, crawl before you walk, before you run. You got to do those basic movements, circles, pendulums, swipes, shield casts, pullovers, before you can do mills. And then as you get better and better at it, you can start to do it in such a way that it becomes difficult and it becomes a true workout. So ultimately, your club workout should be hard, but it should be doable. You need to be under control all the time, but you need to push yourself, right? That's the whole concept of these progressive workouts, is we add a little tiny bit each week or each month. You make it a little bit harder. And then finally, it's got to be fun. So whatever order you put these in, you want to make sure that you have fun doing it. If it's the most boring thing in the world and 10 sets of 10 circles just makes you want to go to sleep, you're going to dread doing that workout in the morning. You're not going to like clubs. You're going to put it off and skip it. And that's not the right way. So if that is so boring that you don't like doing it, change it, mix it up, do shorter sets more frequently. Try to add weight sooner. Try to mix in some swipes or whatever. Just don't do something that's tedious, because that's no fun. So that is a lot to talk about clubs, to say that there isn't a perfect solution, but there is a long runway. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot of benefits in clubs, and you really should be doing clubs as part of your workout. It's going to make your shoulders feel better than they've felt in decades, and I hope that you're able to add it to your program. Hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully this helps you take everything that's out there and help you build it into a program that you can work with, and hopefully you enjoy clubs as much as I do, and you get as much out of them as I did. Thanks for spending a few minutes with me. I hope you have a great day. Go get better.